Hello everyone! We have an exciting episode in store up ahead, but before we get started, I wanted to tell you about an amazing opportunity you have. God willing, in a few weeks, we will be recording a special question and answer episode with our esteemed principal, the one and only Rabbi Landsman. If you've ever had a question for Rabbi Landsman about any topic, now is your chance to ask him. Questions can be submitted at ycqweb.com/podcast. Once again, that's ycqweb.com/podcast. And now, without further ado, today's episode. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the third episode of YCQ Answered. That's Your Children's Questions Answered. I'm here today with two esteemed educators, Mrs. Esther Lowinger, the Junior High Assistant Principal of General Studies, and Mr. Miles Ehrenkranz, a Junior High Social Studies teacher. But so much more than that. Today we're going to talk about an exciting topic. I think, at least. I hope you think as well. If you're listening, you probably were, somewhat intrigued by the topic. But we're going to be talking about personal finance and financial literacy for children. And Mr. E, we're going to start with you. A few weeks ago, you introduced to your students in the junior high, you called it Money Month, cute name. You introduced this into your curriculum. Tell us more about that. What was that? Why?
Okay. Well, thanks for the question. It's a good one. In social studies, the focus that we have requires the study of society not just from a historical point of view, but from a point of view of current society. And in America, that has always and continues to be all about money. So what was put together was a month teaching about, as you said, financial literacy, and this was done through various activities, including, but not limited to, group discussions and simulations of how to make money, how to save money, how to budget money. And it equipped them with what we all like to do as educators, provide crucial life skills for financial independence and success.
That's really important. I love that. Tell me more. I know this is obviously an important topic, but you're a social studies teacher. Why specifically bring this into your classroom?
Well, the first and foremost reason is because students have always asked, how are we going to use this piece of history in modern day society? And why don't you teach us anything of, greater presently applicable substance? And it was really a no-brainer to put this into the curriculum, and therefore some of the things that we achieved were the very basics and the applicability of budgeting, saving, investing, understanding credit, what a debit card is versus what a credit card is, a credit score, basically where money comes from, how to get it, and how to grow it.
Makes a lot of sense, and for better and for worse, money has also been a driving force of a lot of history.
Well, it's one of the bedrock principles of American society.
Yes.
You have life, liberty, and then the pursuit of happiness.
Are you equating happiness and money?
I believe all students equate happiness and money. I have yet to meet a teacher who equates money with happiness and then says, I'm going to go into teaching for that.
All right. And Mrs. Lowinger, I know this is a topic you've been teaching to your students for years. I had the privilege of being in your 6th grade classroom. It's really thanks to you I know how to write a check, for real. So when and why did you introduce these similar topics into your curriculum?
Okay, well, part of the state curriculum for 6th and 7th grade is percents, and teaching them how we use that in everyday life, because in real life you're always going to use percents. I added one of the checks that you mentioned. I added them because I felt that kids should know how to write a check. And so I taught them how to write a check, how to keep a register, how to balance a checkbook. I think these are all important life skills, and they also impressed their parents. And I also taught them about how a bank system works, what a checking account is, what a savings account is. We also talked about certificates of deposit, CDs. They thought that was a music thing, but it's obviously not in this case.
I'm surprised the kids even know what a CD is nowadays.
Yeah,
Of a music CD.
Some of them had no idea what that was. And I showed them how to save money. Right now they have bar and bat mitzvah money in the 6th and 7th grade. So you're not using that money. It's sitting in a bank account. You can open up a CD. So we talked about how those work and how to calculate it. I think all of those skills are life skills that are very important. As part of my curriculum, we teach discounts, how to figure out if something's on sale.
Oh, always love a
That's
good sale.
a very important life skill. That when they go shopping, the girls loved it. They now can figure out if the shirt is on sale for 20% off. They can find out how much money they're saving and how much money they're going to spend. We talked about restaurants when you go out to eat, how much to tip the waiter, and how much tax is in your state, depending upon your state. And we talked about also, I had an experience, I went to a restaurant, and the restaurant calculated the tip for me, and they calculated incorrectly. They actually added like $2 to the tip because I think they believe that people can't figure it out. So the kids were very interested in that story. We talk about marking up and marking down. A lot of these kids are going to eventually go into business, and if they purchase an item at a certain price, they're not going to sell it for that. They're going to mark it up by a certain percent. We also talked about commission and how certain jobs are based on commission and how much commission you would get. Real estate agents are commission based.
Yep.
So they have found that very interesting.
For sure. It's really remarkable. I think, do you ever get any, I don't want to say pushback, but do you ever have parents or students saying like, my kid's 12 years old, why does he have to know how to write a check in the stock market or whatever? Or do we think, what age, I guess, is, and I know both of you deal primarily with junior high students. Do we think there's a age where before junior high even we should be talking about these things?
I think some parents should, have a savings account for their child so they have a place to put their money, or if they earn something, they can put it away for later. I think that's important. I don't think before 6th grade they can really grasp the whole concept of tax and tip and discount, but 6th and 7th graders are definitely able to do that, and it's really a life skill. It really is a life skill. A lot of times as Mr. E said before, they say, when am I ever going to use this in my life? I get that all the time. This is the most relevant topic in life. So yes, they are going to use all of these things.
For sure. And I think beyond the practical skills, which are obviously very important and really, use them every day, shopping in person, in the grocery store, online, wherever it is, we're definitely using these skills. But beyond the practical knowledge, do you think, what are some of the general life skills, like independence and learning about responsibility and waiting for, delayed gratification? How do those characteristics play into this curriculum and learning about these?
Well, one of the things that we learned throughout history, especially American history, even dating back to the 1600s, supply and demand, dating back to the bartering system, has always played a major role in current applicability. It has always determined what the cost of something is. When we learn about the Great Depression, we have to understand about inflation and how supply and demand plays a role in that. What inflation is. Give examples from today, something that they can apply. There are lots of complaints over what a gallon of orange juice costs. Why does it cost so much? So they get to see that there's not much of a gap between what they're learning in American history from a financial standpoint as to how our capitalist society continues to thrive in present day.
Makes a lot of sense. And I think I'd be remiss, we're speaking, Mr. E, about American history. I think I was trying to find a way to more smoothly segue into this, but I think your experience with the late Senator Lieberman, I know Senator Lieberman was always someone who was, fiscally responsible, and, tell me more about your experience with Senator Lieberman.
he was he was a role model to me in many ways, especially I'll call it in my early years, and what he did was he took great pride in putting forward bills or retrofitting legislation that would be fair to his constituents and Americans around the nation. And he would explain to his staff, which at the time included me, why he's doing what he's doing as it relates to the budget, the country's budget. And I learned a great deal about that from a truly applicable way, and in doing so, he taught me how to communicate the importance and the ethics, especially the ethics, in dealing with one's own money, but more importantly, and especially when talking about somebody else's money. So he was special for a number of reasons, but Senator Lieberman cared a great deal, obviously, about the American people, but when it came to financial responsibility, he was especially moral and ethical, and he ingrained that in his staff.
That's very moving, and I think ties in nicely what we're talking about, the life skills more, and, character traits that we can learn from financial responsibility. It's one, I think simply, being responsible for yourself and taking care of yourself, but also, especially when you're privileged enough to have some extra and giving back in charity, and calculating all of those things is incredibly moving and powerful too, and to, just act responsibly with your money and ethically. And I think just to close, is there anything I missed? Any questions you wanted me to ask? Any final closing thoughts, Mrs. Lowinger?
I just am very proud of our students. They really love this topic. They see the relevance in it, and they really enjoyed the writing of the checks or figuring out how much something is on sale, how much they're going to pay for it. They get very excited about it because they know in real life this is what their future is.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm glad you asked that question. Students have been taught what tax is and what it goes towards, but as soon as they understood how it affects their bottom line, they immediately took a much greater and
true.
Angrier approach to the idea and what our government does, that the money that they make is not the money they take home, which they could not wrap their heads around.
Right.
It was just question after question of, but I made that amount of money. Don't I get it home? No, you don't. You don't take that home because there are things to pay for.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing happened with when I were in a restaurant. They said, but my food costs $20. Why are they adding tax? And they're adding tip. And I have to pay all this extra money besides the food that I just bought. And they were very fascinated about that. It was like, very interesting.
And that in and of itself is a great example as to the freedom and the freedom that we have as American citizens to spend money as we see fit. But in order to do so, we have to learn how to budget and understand how much money we really get to take home. And explaining gross income versus net income received the most questions in a rapid fire manner.
Sure.
That it became contentious. But I said, something, this is not, taxes are non-negotiable. And I still, to this day, am not sure either that they fully agree with it or if they plan on paying it.
Okay, well, I hope the IRS is not listening to this. I think also it's important, I assume you also discuss in class, though, that, taxes somewhat do help us. We're paying for our own roads and libraries, and it's not totally going to waste.
Oh, no, I gave them a top 100 list of where their tax dollars go, and I said, go ahead, find some things to cut out. There was no consensus on any particular item on the top 100 spending, in terms of where that money goes. That there was universal consensus as to a particular tax that they could cut out. And so they now have a much better understanding as to A, the tax code, and B, where their money goes and how it benefits them.
And I think all of these topics that we're covering really help them become a more educated person. They walk away from YCQ with some kind of a good financial literacy education that will carry them through.
Absolutely. And just to close, are there any specific books or articles or resources that have helped you personally, or you think are a great resource for parents to help educate their children about this topic further?
Yeah, there are 2 books. And I think any 8th grade student, and certainly anybody in high school should read, is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's chock full of practical, easy to do, easy to understand manners in which to approach your life and how to interact with other people across all subjects that we teach. It sounds like a self-help book, but it's not. But it's something that every student must read. And the other one, which is very popular and many students know about, is called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that sounds like it demonizes one who is poor, but it is not. It simply contrasts financial literacy, the expertise in financial literacy, compared to what may happen to an individual and down the line to their family if financial literacy does not exist within.
All right, and just to close with a couple of fun questions. What's something interesting that you have on your desk or in your office?
I have a picture of my children.
Okay.
And every day I sit at my office and I look at them and I'm so proud of all of what they have accomplished. I have one son in finance, one son in engineering, and my daughter is a teacher. So I'm very proud of them, and that makes me very happy.
And for me, I like to rotate what's on my desk to keep it fresh, both for the students and myself. So, for example, today I have 2 framed pictures, one from a Republican president, one from a Democrat president, from JFK and Ronald Reagan, and that I find those guiding for me and reminding me that it's exceptionally important to teach both sides of an argument from the highest levels of power in U.S. government. And the other reason why it's important is because it's faced towards the students, so that they can see that the same values were key principles in how Republicans and Democrats governed at different times in the United States during a time where the word bipartisanship actually applied, which unfortunately has gone by the wayside today.
Sure. And what's your favorite lunch at YCQ?
Taco Bowl.
Taco Bowl.
That seems to be a big hit. It's a new meal that has been added by Susan, and that is, I think, the best school meal besides deli sandwiches. Those are pretty good too.
For me, and we have a phenomenal kitchen staff. They do they really do a restaurant quality job. But for me,
And they don't even make us a tip at the end.
no, that's right. That's a great point.
We probably should be tipping them.
For me, it's hush puppies. Those hot dogs wrapped in potato. They're just my favorite.
Love hush puppies. All right. Thank you both so much. I think this was a great conversation.
Thank you for having us.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Once again, a special thank you to Mr. Simcha Summer for helping produce this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on your app of choice so you never miss an episode. We would love to hear from you. Go to ycqweb.com/podcast if you have any ideas for a topic of discussion, a special guest, or anything else you think we could be doing better. Please let us know. Once again, that's ycqweb.com/podcast. That's where you can submit feedback, listen to old episodes, and submit questions for the upcoming Q&A with Rabbi Landsman. Until next time.